This video will be much looser and more unscripted than my usual content. I just want to get on here and talk about 10 films that have shaped my taste in cinema. This isn't necessarily a list of my favorite films, although of course there is a lot of overlap. Essentially, the point of this video is to provide a brief glimpse into my mind. I'll talk about each film one by one in alphabetical order, but first, here are some honorable mentions. Bully, Climax, A Clockwork Orange, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Moonlight, Spring Breakers, and Terminal USA. Now let's get into the actual list. But first, it seems like 99.1% of you aren't subscribed. I would greatly appreciate it if you can get that number down. Okay, now let's actually begin. I've seen Call Me By Your Name at least 6 or 7 times, and I grow to love it more and more with each viewing. I find it to be one of the most honest depictions of love and adolescence ever put to screen. This ranked in first place in my Timothée Chalamet video, and it's also one of my favorite coming-of-age films, a genre that I deeply resonate with. Call Me By Your Name isn't a narrative-driven film. It's driven by character and atmosphere. It's the kind of film I wish was longer and I wish I could live in. Riding my bike through northern Italy in the summer of '83, that's my idea of a good time. I am the type of person who gets nostalgic about times and places I never lived in, which is a recurring theme in these films. It should come as no surprise that Call Me By Your Name played a big part in shaping my taste in cinema. It's a moody, emotionally powerful film with a great soundtrack. I could watch it any day of the week, and it will always hit in the exact intended way. Moving on from one coming-of-age film, we have a different style of coming-of-age film in Dazed and Confused. Remember when I said I'm the type of person to feel nostalgic about times and places I didn't live in? Well, case in point. It's been a while since I've seen Dazed and Confused, but I could never forget the feeling this film gives me. It's like a shot of adrenaline, dozens of iconic characters, many of whom I relate to. The film's style is so expressive, one of the greatest films to ever adopt a 70s aesthetic. The cars and the outfits, all of it is eye candy to me. I consider Richard Linklater to be one of the greatest screenwriters of all time and one of the most influential filmmakers to me personally. And if you ask me, Dazed and Confused is his magnum opus. As a big fan of hangout movies and quote-unquote vibes movies, how could I not love Dazed and Confused? It's the definitive hangout movie. What else is there to say? I did consider including Everybody Wants Some on this list, which is the spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused, but I did watch Dazed and Confused first, so I'll keep it simple. I'm just realizing this is the third coming-of-age film in a row, but again, it's very different. For a good while, The Doom Generation was my favorite film, and I still consider it to be the most important film in my movie-watching journey. The director of this film, Greg Araki, will most likely forever be the greatest artistic inspiration in my life. And The Doom Generation encapsulates everything I love about his work. It's raw, sincere, angsty, and unapologetic. In my opinion, no film better captures that hectic time period when you transition from a teenager to an adult. It's an angry, confused film with a great sense of humor and a strong aesthetic. Each of our 3 main characters are distinctly memorable and relatable. I wish I could spend more time with each of these characters, but for a film that's only 80 minutes long, it sure has a lot of substance. The Doom Generation is one of the coolest examples of what low-budget filmmaking can accomplish, and it's one of my favorite films to introduce to people. I feel confident in saying that Eyes Wide Shut is my favorite Stanley Kubrick film. Not only is it a film with endless layers to unpack, but it's also just a good time. I know that may be a strange way to describe one of the most infamously disturbing films ever made, but whenever I watch Eyes Wide Shut, I have a lot of fun. Kubrick's depiction of New York City during the holidays is hauntingly beautiful, and I love how ominously every character speaks and acts. It's a deeply unsettling film, not only because of what's shown, but because of what isn't shown. I love the strange feeling this film gives me. It's a film with a lot to say about sexuality and power and masculinity and femininity, truly a thematically rich film. I like it when films spark discourse and even controversy, and that's exactly what Eyes Wide Shut does. It's truly one of the most provocative films out there, and in my opinion, one of the most well-made as well. Hannah and Her Sisters is my ultimate comfort film, but it's so much more than that too. The film follows a wide variety of people living in Manhattan, and it explores themes of infidelity, life's fragility, the fear of failure, and so much more. These are all themes that I find deeply fascinating, and I love how the film is able to pull together so many different storylines into one cohesively beautiful picture. all the while being a hilarious comedy as well. Everything about Hannah and her sisters feels tailor-made for me personally. The locations, the characters, the themes, the sense of humor, all of it works for me. I'm a big fan of ensemble films that consist of privileged pseudo-intellectual characters having shallow conversations about art and philosophy over cocktails. And while this film isn't exactly that, it does have that vibe. I could rewatch Hannah and her sisters any day of the week, and it will always put a smile on my face. Love Exposure is a 4-hour movie about everything. Everything you could ever imagine, it happens in Love Exposure. And it's awesome. It's a long film, but it never drags. The film's style is so abrasive and maximalist, yet somehow it never gets tiring. It's an absurd film in its sense of humor, subject matter, and technical execution. But it's also incredibly sincere, not performative in the slightest. Love Exposure is one of those films that opened my eyes to the possibilities of cinema. What do you mean you can make a film about upskirt photography and Catholicism and kung fu and cross-dressing and have it all feel cohesive? There never has been and never will be another film quite like Love Exposure, and I believe it's a film everyone needs to experience at least once. Mummy, directed by Xavier Dolan, is one of my favorite looking movies ever made. The aspect ratio is 1:1, creating for a uniquely personal atmosphere. And I adore the film's yellow color palette. It's my favorite color after all. As for the story, it's a deeply personal family drama, and I find it very powerful. Very few films get me as emotional as this one. And it's not like this film only makes me sad. No, it makes me feel just about every emotion, including happiness and anger. It really is an emotional roller coaster, with 3 of the most believable performances ever put to screen. Of course, all films are art, but this one really feels like it belongs in a museum. The Mother and the Whore is a nearly 4-hour French black and white film from the 70s with no real plot, and it's one of my favorite films ever made. The film is purely driven by character and atmosphere, and I love that. It consists of young, depressed French people having philosophical conversations over cigarettes and whiskey. And while on the surface it may seem like many of these conversations don't have a lot of substance, the film does have a lot to say. And it says it with style. This is one of the coolest films ever made. Of course, this isn't a French New Wave film, but it does have a lot of those French New Wave sensibilities. And I love that style of filmmaking. It's simultaneously naturalistic and expressive. I adore every character in this film, especially the main character played by JPL, who might just be my favorite character in cinematic history. I love a good character study that takes its time developing each character and the world they live in. But above all, The Mother and the Whore is a film I want to live in. Its atmosphere might just be the greatest ever created, at least in my opinion. I bet this film is on a lot of people's lists. It's one of those great entry points into cinema. Pulp Fiction was one of the first films I fell in love with that heavily utilized non-linear storytelling. I'm sure I don't really need to explain how Pulp Fiction shaped my taste in cinema. It's Pulp Fiction after all. But yeah, I mean, every single character is iconic, the dialogue is absolutely riveting, and I love the unorthodox structure. Say what you will about Quentin Tarantino, but the guy knows how to make a movie. There's a reason most film students have a Pulp Fiction poster on the wall. It's one of the most influential films ever made. I've seen it countless times, and I never get tired of it. I currently consider Tokyo Story to be my favorite film of all time. It's one of those perfect films where every single element works in harmony. The characters don't feel like characters, and I mean that in a good way. They feel like real people, complementing the film's story and tone. The camera never moves, it simply observes, capturing stunning images along the way. Yasujiro Ozu loves placing the camera in between his characters during dialogue scenes, creating for an intimate feel. I feel as though this film somehow manages to capture the entire essence of life without even trying. It simply observes a slice of life that somehow encapsulates all of life. And it's never overwhelming. That's the beauty of Tokyo Story. It's a film that makes you feel every emotion in its purest form. You have to experience it to believe it. And hey, I think that'll about do it for today's video. I just wanted to get on here and talk about a handful of films that have positively influenced my taste in cinema. Of course, I could have easily talked about 100 more films at far greater lengths, but I'll leave it at that for now. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.